When the Indianapolis Colts drafted Anthony Richardson 2 years ago, the thought was that they could finally turn the page on the abrupt ending to Andrew Luck's chapter, that they could now look ahead to their promising future with their new franchise quarterback. For the masses, this was a monster upside pick, built like a Greek god statue, athleticism off the charts, cannon for an arm, and he gets the chance to work with Shane Steichen. And you saw what he did as offensive coordinator in Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts. Huge jump from year 2 to year 3, second team All-Pro, runner-up for MVP, led the Eagles to the Super Bowl, narrowly losing to Kansas City. Obviously, Richardson is destined for success under Steichen, now head coach of the Colts. Except Richardson and Jalen Hurts were two different prospects coming out of college. It's a classic apples to oranges comparison. Jalen Hurts, throughout his entire collegiate career, every season with his time spent between Alabama and Oklahoma, completed over 60% of his passes. You compare that to Anthony Richardson, the lone season he had as a full-time starter, completed just 54% of his passes. Objectively speaking, that was a giant red flag. This is a huge risk, the risk suggesting that we should not take this guy. This is going to be too much of a potential problem to select this guy in the first round, let alone 4th overall, because the most important skill set that you want from a quarterback is accuracy. To come into the league as a wildly inaccurate quarterback, to then become a prolific passer is super rare. In fact, the year before Richardson got drafted, 2022, of the starting quarterbacks in the league, 32 total, only 3 of them, their final year in college, completed below a 60% completion rate. Those quarterbacks are Josh Allen out of Wyoming, Lamar Jackson out of Louisville, and Matt Ryan out of Boston College. That's 3 quarterbacks out of 32. That's a short but great list, but just goes to show that turning a project around like that, that's such a rarity. Those guys are stems in a field smothered by weeds. Anthony Richardson was always a high risk with a nearly impossible to reach high reward. His rookie year, played in just 4 games before suffering a season-ending injury to his throwing shoulder. Accuracy was an issue, but considerably better than the previous year at Florida. Plus, he's a rookie, so nothing to raise hell about. Comes back his second year, 2024, suffered a hip injury week 4 versus Pittsburgh, missed the next 2 games. His second game back from injury versus Houston, the infamous I'm tired game. 3rd and goal, 23 yards out, down 7 in the 3rd quarter, takes himself out of the game for that play, admitting to the media that he did it because he was too tired.
I ain't gonna lie, I was saying I just needed a break right there.
Colts settle for a Jonathan Taylor run. You hit the field goal and get 3 points out of it. And quite honestly, you would have settled for a run or dump off pass to play for the field goal in that position, even with Richardson in for that snap. But it no doubt sent a terrible message to the fans, his teammates, and leadership within the organization. Dude, we're sitting here on the edge of our seats watching you every game, hoping that this game is finally the game where you show some level of progress, where you show that you're not a bust. Because prior to that game, you completed just 48.5% of your passes. And in the position that is universally recognized in the sport of football as the leader of the locker room, talking about the quarterback position, you take yourself out of the game because you're tired? At least tell your head coach in private, so that way in the public eye, he can try to spin it into something. You know what? He told us he felt like he got dinged up, so we wanted to take a real quick look at him. Something. Instead, you tell the world in 4K, came back, no longer tired, but poor performance remained consistent. Colts missed the playoffs. Very disappointing season. Anthony Richardson, 11 games played, a 48% completion rate, 14 total touchdowns, 15 turnovers. And you know it's really bad talking about the outlook of your franchise quarterback when NFL insiders, in this case Ian Rappaport, has to report that Anthony Richardson Former 4th overall pick is the presumptive starter in 2025, his 3rd season. The Anthony Richardson era in Indy so far has obviously been a disaster, but it starts from the top. You would think immediately at season's end, once it was over, their game against Jacksonville, the obvious takeaway is, hey, you know what? There's no way in hell we can go into next year, 2025, with Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen leading the charge because the signs were there. And this is not the power of hindsight. I said in real time leading up to the draft on my main channel, Realistic Randy, when it was rumored that the Vikings were heavily interested in Richardson and that they could possibly trade up in the draft to take Anthony Richardson, I said, hell no. I don't want the Vikings taking Richardson because of the exact reasons that were foreshadowed into what it is that we're seeing right now. Ballard and Steichen have attached their names and reputation to Richardson. Obviously, they should clean house. Colts owner Jim Irsay said, not so fast. Just hours after their season finale win against Jacksonville, Jim Irsay released a statement showing support of Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen, revealing that they would return for 2025, saying, quote, I've been evaluating our entire operation and I believe in Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen and our collective ability to make the improvements needed to take us to the next level in 2025. I know fans who want an immediate change in leadership will be disappointed. That means we all have a lot to prove, so we'll get back to work and keep doing what we can to earn your support and make you proud to be a Colts fan. It's a complete mess. In fact, the Chris Ballard era, what they've achieved in that time since he got hired in 2017, yes, albeit in fairness to him, he wasn't expecting Andrew Luck to abruptly retire in the 2019 preseason. But ever since he got hired in 2017, the Colts have 0 division wins, 1 playoff win, 7 different quarterbacks to start the season, drafted a quarterback bust. And with him quitting on his team for a play, on top of his poor performance, I'd be shocked if half the players on that roster believes in Richardson. One anonymous veteran Colts player said to The Athletic, quote, there's no vision. And with that, the Colts have chosen to take the path going into 2025 of running it back with the 3-headed monster of Ballard, Steichen, and Richardson, hoping that things will improve. Just taking a shot in the dark here, it's not. Tack on another year of frustrations and excuses. On offense, the run game is great. The passing game could use some work, obviously, with a bottom 10 passing offense this past season. They desperately need help on the defensive side of the ball. Bottom 5 in yards allowed, bottom 10 in points allowed. They do have the 14th overall pick in this upcoming draft, as well as around $33 million to operate with in free agency. So in theory, if there is any hope of trying to salvage the disaster that they have not only created for themselves, but continue to operate in on offense, they're not going to make a change at quarterback. Okay, at receiver, you're set. Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, that is a nice trio of playmakers. Jonathan Taylor, obviously great. They could use some help on the offensive line, but I think the most glaring need that they must address this offseason on the offensive side of the ball is tight end. Penn State's Tyler Warren would make the most sense for the Colts to select at 14. Best tight end in college football, over 1,200 yards, 8 receiving touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns, big target, 6'6", 261 pounds, athletic freak, has the versatility to open up the playbook, can line him up in the backfield even. If there's any hope of saving Anthony Richardson, to me, this is the move to make. A good tight end can be a quarterback's best friend. Warren is going to create so many mismatches that he will inevitably become the much needed great safety blanket for the quarterback. The domino effect could be that as the quarterback gets more and more comfortable making plays to the really good tight end, that he gains confidence to make plays everywhere else on the field. I believe Tyler Warren would be layup plays for Anthony Richardson. Layup plays being the high percentage plays, and as you get more confident in those plays, you start to move back and get more comfortable making plays on the outside and the perimeter. Intermediate and deep pass plays, baby steps. The $33 million in cap, spend it on the defense. And if you are able to achieve even the smallest of progress, that is something I believe you can begin to hang your hat on. You're in a very winnable division. This, I believe, would yield the best results moving forward for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the question becomes, will Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen see it that way? Or will they just do something goofy as hell? Well, to be determined.